to the show.
Thank you, man. Good to be here.
This is the first episode that I'm doing, and obviously, great pleasure to have you here. We spoke about that before. There's a lot of contrast between you and I that we spoke about. Start at the beginning. Start right at the beginning. Where'd you grow up?
Grew up in D.C., was born in D.C. My family moved when I was, I was almost 12, so end of my 5th grade year. Finished 5th grade in Vermont, Essex, Vermont, and and then lived in New York City for a good part of my 20s.
So, you came here right at that age.
Yep.
Right at the age when I started to find music and appreciate it for its content more than just the sound of it. What year did you graduate?
High school, 99.
I graduated in 2000. I would have graduated in 99, but I stayed back a year and
So yeah, we are the same age.
So, I think we spoke about this before, but what was the catalyst that got you into listening to hip hop? We'll start there.
So listening to hip hop, I mean, it was just growing up in DC. Honestly, man, I the radio station WPGC was played hip hop, and it played just the good hip hop of the era, man. Like Naughty by Nature, OPP,
so we're talking
Ice-T, New Jack Hustler, LL Cool J, Mama Said Knock You Out. Those songs were getting played. Chubb Rock, Treat 'Em Right. So I heard those songs, and I just, that was it, man.
So, in coming up and hearing that, you're 40.
Mm-hmm.
So we're talking early 90s.
Yeah.
So
90 was, I remember the first conscious memory I have of I'm going to take my allowance and I'm going to walk to the store, music store, and buy a tape. Was Naughty by Nature, the first Naughty by Nature album.
Yeah.
So I would watch Video Music Box, and it was like a pay to play type channel, but you could watch the videos other people bought. So the videos for OPP and Ghetto Bastard were playing all the time, and I remember.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know the system. Wow.
Video Music Box. It was awesome, man. It was a pay-per-view music video channel. It was just called I called it the Box. Like my friends and I called it the Box. But it was called Video Music Box.
No shit.
And I watched these videos, and I was, man, Tretch's flow, it just was like music. There was a musical rhythm to it.
To me, though, it didn't seem natural to hear the stuff that we were hearing on the radio.
Uh-huh.
That was top 40 stuff at that time. And then he comes out with just a style that is...
I mean, does
that belong on that pop style hip hop song?
Right.
And
well, that's what was so genius about them.
That blows my mind.
See, they were amazing at being able to craft a commercial single, like they did it with OPP. They did it with Hip Hop Hooray. What was the Feel Me Flow?
Yeah.
Right.
That was different. See. Feel Me Flow is that's like Tretch doing his thing, and it was tight. But was it supposed to be a hit song? Probably not.
Oh yes, it was.
You think that was fashion?
That was that sample, just the beat, man. It was designed to hit. It's just such a smooth beat, and it fits. Fits Tretch's flow so well, and. It's just, man, it's beautiful. Well,
yeah, definitely. Like we spoke prior to this about hearing those songs. See, I'm from Vermont, so you know how those are cool shoes back in the 90s, but we won't have them for another 2 weeks to 2 months type stuff. So luckily we had MTV, so we had that, which is where, as I told you, where I got my substance from was from MTV. But the good thing about MTV back then is it wasn't just miscellaneous TV that it is now. It was actually music television.
Yo MTV Raps.
I mean, that's probably the first time I heard a legitimate freestyle. Maybe not legitimate, because when I say...
Not everyone goes off the top.
Right. When I when I say freestyle, I say off the top is where it has to be.
That's what freestyle means to me, but to others, it is.
To others,
it's a verse that you wrote that's like freestyle. It's not connected to any.
It's
not connected to a specific song. It's just you wrote these bars.
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. See, and that's the thing. You rate something to 85 beats a minute, then you gotta hit the stage and drop it 95 beats a minute. Not that
I just think it makes you
that low,
just like improv makes you a better actor.
Yeah.
For being able to flow off the top makes you a better MC and a better writer. Because if you can learn to think spontaneously and be able to put together, like, it's just gonna come to you better. Like, it's just, you're forcing yourself. I honestly think that if everyone pushed themselves to do it, they could.
Oh yeah, but
you know, it's just how much time do you want to put in.
It's a want.
And I had to get past. For me, I had to get past the stutter stops. I stopped because I lost the flow. It's like, no, work through it until I stopped.
I would just say I stopped because I lost my flow.
Right, there
dropped
you go.
it back
Exactly.
down and left you all broke, and then flip that shit around.
Right.
But if you're gonna stutter and you're gonna step, you better walk out of it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So
exactly.
That's why I always practice coming off the top.
Right.
But then you see in a different direction. But you see people that when you're freestyling, because I've noticed, and I said this to you before. I don't know too many other people in the local scene. I don't know. I don't say there's not any, but I don't know of too many people in the scene that would just be in Red Square or wherever down there. And the DJ knows you're there, somebody you know, and they're like, get up here and drop, kick a freestyle.
Right, right.
I have to go. I have to go do it. Mm-hmm. My integrity.
I never said no once.
Right.
All the time that ever happened.
See, my integrity won't allow me to say no.
Because you embrace it. Because it's like trusting.
Oh, but it's the scariest walk.
I know, but it's trusting your instrument enough.
I would equate that walk to the stage as to the walk of shame through your living room with all your friends playing video games at 10 in the morning and she's leaving. That's that walk. You know that somebody wants to say something. You know that people are prejudging what's going to happen here. But then you stand face to face with somebody. Because I don't know if everybody knows this, but you're a freestyle artist. In the sense that, well, explain the sense.
I mean,
the
honestly,
thing that I saw
I'll freestyle
online.
I'll freestyle whole sets. Where like I'll do a 20-minute set where there was one time where I got asked to do a set randomly because they lost an artist for the night.
Yeah.
So on like 5 minutes warning, it was like, or maybe it was like an hour warning. Like, hey man, can you do a set?
But it's 5 minutes.
An hour later,
here it's 5 minutes.
I just I basically was just like, all right, I'm just gonna.
I know my material. I just got to do it over other shit.
No, I just wanted to freestyle. So I freestyled over beats for 20 minutes. And looking back, it's like, does someone want to watch someone do that? You know what I mean? So it's one of those things. You have to be self-introspective enough to be but I do love the freestyle art and pushing yourself to be able to travel to places you haven't traveled and make discoveries lyrically. And that's why, to me, it's like finding ways to like younger MCs that want to do this. It's like find ways to arm yourself with words,
right?
With vocabulary,
with
new opportunities to rhyme.
That's what I grew up with. I mean, being that we're the same age, anything that I speak about, I almost feel like you're gonna know about it,
right?
Especially if
we were experiencing life at the same time.
So, but it's weird to me that you're like, I went to Essex. I went to Essex Tech my junior year, and there was a guy named Mike Slavati who used to set up all his pages on the table and like go through them.
I've known Mike for a long time.
Yeah, he lives up here. My old lady knows his old lady, and I never got to work with him, but I was there. I was at your school the year you graduated, and I was taking printing computer graphics. So, which turns out was a waste of my time because everybody started doing it like the year I went to that class. But yeah, it's weird that we never ran into each other.
I know.
I mean, I've told you, I've always kind of kept my distance because, and it wasn't like out of fear, but out of recognition and respect. Because, as I said, I feel like the two of me and my partner Travis, when we're rhyming, doing our thing, and then I see all these artists that are starting to pop up, and I love it. It makes me smile every time I see somebody new, hear somebody new's music. But then when I saw you guys start to bring a presence, that's when I was like, these guys are like an image, like not a mirror image, but like you are who we could be working with, we could be working against, but like let's watch them. Mm-hmm. Let's see what they do, because we took a different path. I mean, I could go anywhere with this, but as I told you before, we chose to self-promote. We didn't have like Dakota and the home team coming and doing the VT Union thing. We didn't jump on that wave like a lot of artists did. Maybe we should have. I don't know. But I definitely felt like you guys, when I say you guys, I mean you and Pro, the Aztec. I felt like you guys were our equals. Now, how do I go about addressing this? And so I just left it alone until I contacted you to do this show.
Right.
And then when I thought about you for like being the first guest on the show, for me it's like this gives me an opportunity to sit down with them. Like, how many people have ran in the same circle? Because hip hop in this state is a circle.
Mm-hmm. But never met.
But never met, never done a show together,
right.
Never collaborated. I mean, never met.
Right.
Until today when you got here. But both have a presence. You have a presence in a different area of local hip hop than say I do, because of my attitude towards certain things. But how did you and Pro meet up?
So we went to,
because I know you've had other groups, and I don't want to cut other groups out, but I found out about some of them today.
Yeah.
Why don't you just tell me your story?
Well, I mean, that would be.
How did you get into hip hop beyond hearing it? How did you?
Yeah. So when did I start writing and actually start to like entertain the notion of becoming an MC or trying?
Yeah. What sparked the interest? What was the catalyst on that?
It was when I had moved to Vermont, and I think the closest to, so like I remember recording a version of the Humpty Dance into like a mic when I was, before I moved, so I must have been like 10, not 9 or 10, whenever that came out. And that was like the first time I, because I would rap along to tracks.
Oh, of course.
But like that was like actually rapping on it. And then so I got to Vermont, and I was in poetry class, and my teacher, Mr. Champ, my English teacher, he was really knowledgeable about literature, and like he really created this space where I remember making the connection between poetry and song lyrics, but hip hop in particular, because that was just the music that I grew up revering and loving and having to listen to.
I'm sure that was
that it clicked. I was like, wait a minute.
I'm sure it was a super loud click when it clicked.
And then I just started writing. And then by the time I was 15, I recorded like an EP over some whack Casio beats that I made. You know what I mean? Like just something to like.
Hey.
But
I started with an MTV Music Generator.
Right.
Like that was our access here. Because most people come from like a city, like a urban location. They have these music stores that are underground music stores, and we had that. We had Pure Pop.
I mean, we had Sam Goody.
But where do we go get beats?
We had in DC. We had some great record stores.
And as you know, when you got here, you're like Record Town, Coconuts used to be up in the Staples Plaza.
Strawberries.
Yeah, and then. Because it was strawberries, then coconuts, right?
Right.
What the fuck?
Yeah. And then what was the one at the mall? Record
Town, and then before
FYE,
that it was but before even Record Town, wasn't it something? Anyway.
And then there were places like Tones.
Hip-hop.
I don't know if you remember Tones, but I think it was in.
I used to get all of my import CDs, both rock and hip hop, from Northern Lights.
Okay.
They had a wild good selection, and they're still there, aren't they?
But I mean, Tones got so much good hip hop releases that. There's so many good hip-hop releases that my friend Jeremy and I would literally, like, we drove there, like, probably, it was like Hyde Park, so, like, however far that, I remember
This was a store in Hyde Park?
Yeah. Dude, they had such an incredible collection of records and CDs.
So, what you're telling me is somebody in Hyde Park cared enough.
It was crazy.
To facilitate
it was basically
this store.
the record store equivalent, because we had Flex Records, too, which was awesome, but, like,
Where's that?
That was in Burlington. right
Heard
on
of it.
yeah, right on Main Street. But like, dude, I mean, my friend and I went, and I remember we got, I remember the day we drove to get the Roots, Things Fall Apart, and Eminem Slim Shady LP the same day. They both came out on the same day. And just having a place like that you knew, and then WRUV was another great avenue and Big J.
We were on RUV.
Shout out Big J particularly because man, his show, and I got the opportunity to meet him and then freestyle on the air with him.
Was it the Hip
when I
Hop
was a
Annex?
young kid? What's that?
The Hip Hop Annex.
Hip Hop Annex. I don't know.
Yeah.
You mean the show? What?
The show was called on RUV on Saturday night.
That was Big J's show?
No.
Oh.
This is the one that we went on, and we were supposed to be on for like a 10, 15-minute spot, but now that you've met me, you see I talk a lot. So we were actually on there for 15 minutes just talking, and then he's like, I'm gonna play some of your music. You guys wanna, freestyle or whatever? And I was like, sure. He's like, all right, because he was playing the first song off our CD. I don't know who it was that was running it, and it's the same guy that brought us over to Blind Dog.
Okay.
You know Blind Dog. Wow. See, isn't it weird how we're running in the same circle of local hip hop, but there's something like you said, Flex. I had no idea, and now I say,
well, if you didn't live in Burlington,
we met
you're
Triple
not
OG. Triple OG is part of like the Woo, like off camp of the Woo, and he was there, and he was like, when we met at Blind Dog Records. We'll get back to it in a second, but we met at Blind Dog Records. He's like, yo, you want to do a show with me and who the fuck is it? Can't think of him right now. Ghostface Killer, and I was like, no. It's like not being prepared. But yeah, it's interesting how like we ran in that same circle. We run in the same circle, but we don't know of certain things that the other one does. It's weird. Like I can understand a music store, but Blind Dog I thought played a big role in it. A big role in local hip hop because we got on RUV, but so Big J is where you were?
Yeah, so I would listen and he would play all the great hip hop songs that were coming out, like a lot of the underground stuff that was coming out, Mike Zoot. Missing Links, and I would call in and ask to hear these songs because I would follow hiphopsite.com, which was run by Warren Peace and Mr. Pizzo, and it was this great website that would let you know about what was coming out at the time, like what's coming out this week. It was just a really cool, and reviews and all that stuff. So I would read about these things, and then I would want to hear them. So I'd like call Big J's show, and I'd be like, "Can you play this? Can you play this?" And
how old are you?
So I'm probably like 17 at this point.
Okay.
So he's aware of me enough as a listener of the show, and just this kid who calls in for these like.
But you care.
Yeah, but he was just like,
just
hey
like
man,
the guy in Hyde Park.
like dude, what's your deal, man? Like you know about these these songs, and like then I told him my rhyme, and he ended up inviting me up to the show, and I went up and freestyled over I think it was Shabam Sadiq Sound Clash, the beat for that. With this Nick Wiz instrumental, it's still one of my favorite beats of all time, and I think it was Missing Links, the beat for that, and I definitely rapped some verses that I knew. I don't think I freestyled off the top, but I might have done a little bit of both. But yeah, man, that was, and then like I met Jeremy Donahue in high school, and we formed a group. So I dropped a solo tape as Demon Exalt called Finally, which was like 17 tracks. I sold them for like $5 a copy.
I want one.
I'd have to. Someone has it. I wish I had it. I can't believe I don't have it.
I want to be able to like put this out.
It's over Industry Beats. It's like definitely very raw and hungry.
So this is a mixtape.
This is like a mixtape, but my first like.
This is a
album,
mixtape,
but it's a mixtape. Yeah, but I wrote it like it was an album.
But this is a mixtape.
Yes.
Like this is crazy.
Yeah,
because I wasn't making mixtapes back then. So now when you drop that, is that your first?
So that was technically my first, that I sold, like, for money.
Sure you want to say that? on the air?
I mean, hey,
just don't mention the beats.
I won't mention
the
beats. Hey, they want to take that $50 that I made. They can.
But hey,
they're entitled to it.
That makes you professional, though.
Right. so then I became friends with Jeremy Donahue, who also rhymed, and we became. So he called himself Phantom. I was Lyric, and I'm still Lyric. He changed his name to Framework. And he was in a group, The Loyalists, and he is in a group, The Windmills, right now. I told you. And we became, at first we did a show at 242, and then we opened for Black Moon and Ugly Duckling, which was when we were like 17, and that at Higher Ground, and that was like really our first. Dude, Black Moon was a group that, and Ugly Duckling was also a group that
So this is going on.
Black Moon was like, whoa.
So we're talking 98.
Yep.
And you're playing at Higher Ground. We're talking Higher Ground when they were in Winooski.
Yeah. I used to go to shows all the time, and then I got to do this show.
Yeah, well, who were the Vermont artists playing at the shows? Nobody until you?
No, there were others. Manifest Next to Me used to do a lot of stuff back then.
I don't know who that is.
And then, oh man, it's tough to go back in my mind and really, but
that's okay.
I mean, we weren't getting like all the shows back then. We did that one show.
And then, that's great.
You know what I mean? And then we became Subliminal Messages, and we made an EP with Rec. Was the producer.
All right. Well, so this is in my experience, and then so it was like 2003 when we started doing the showcases.
Okay. So that's a couple years before we became the Aztecs. Yeah.
But Framework was there.
Oh, okay.
And I had no idea who he was.
Yeah.
No idea who he was. And like I said, and it's no shot at him, but this guy wearing cargo shorts and Birkenstocks, I believe. Mm-hmm. And yes, he did have socks on. But he's murking it. Like, straight killing the mic.
Because he's incredible.
And I'm like, holy shit. What are we going with here? Because, as I mentioned to you...
He set the bar high locally, man. His breath control, flow, lyrics.
Yeah.
It was all there, man. And dude, he was a nasty turntablist, and I mean...
And he's from Vermont?
Yeah.
No shit.
And then the production...
See, and that, it's weird though, because like he was there at that... The Champ held the showcase.
Right.
Shout out to the Champ. I don't know if he's still alive or where he's kicking, but I haven't seen him in fucking almost 20 years. But Framework was there, and the thing that separated, I think it's the same thing. There's a separation between you and I too, and like the style of music that we just.
Like, what's the stuff that you grew up listening to? Like, what was the first album that you remember listening to?
The first, wow, dude. Well, Snoop Dogg, I can tell you right now.
I remember
that
when
Murder Was the Case, and I was like, there was an energy about. I don't know what it was about that, but I've been listening to my first. See, you had the music box thing,
right?
But all I had was Columbia House and BMG.
I went through that phase as well.
It was a great phase. That's how I still have.
Dude, I listened to so much alternative rock back then. Dude,
wow,
so much, man.
Wow.
Weezer, Nirvana.
Dude, Candlebox.
Filter.
Candlebox.
Helmet.
Shit. Silverchair. Still. Anyway.
All those groups.
But no, there was a lot of that kind of music on there, but you gotta, it's like you get two, then you pay a penny.
Right.
Then you get 10 more. And then you pay
like $15 a month or something,
or whatever it is, and you get like 3 albums a month, but for $15.
Yeah, it was a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
if you think about it, people talked about it like it was a scam.
If people were still getting that on, like, music streaming,
yeah,
then they'd fucking be
streaming. It's such a tough thing because it's like I appreciate the vastness of the music library that I can just like deep dive and find all this stuff, right?
Right.
It's like an encyclopedia of music.
It's the internet.
However, as an artist, man, did it disrupt things. And
yeah.
As far as the artist getting paid, you know,
gotta sell like 1,500 copies or 1,500 streams to get one album sale.
It's just not. it's not designed to make artists money.
No, it's what they did to try to. It's like they do streaming like, oh, this is how we're gonna cripple the artist, because their thing was always crippling the artist.
They should. It's not fair, man.
But what's happening now? Shit like this is the artist is about to cripple the corporate sector. Like, we're killing them right now. They're trying to find ways. I don't want to get into this because politics is fucking bullshit. But it's like we're taking it back. As the content creators and the artists, we're able to take it back. And granted, I
want to release music on vinyl, and
see, that's the thing.
You know, because there is a space for, there are vinyl collectors, man. You can sell vinyl at shows.
Again,
people will want to buy records.
Actually, I can't say again, because we were never.
But I used to when I went to shows at Higher Ground.
Yeah, but something tells me that you always you always wanted your shit on vinyl anyway.
Of course. And I've only been on, let's see, Pro's solo album was really, I think, the only time I've ever been on vinyl.
No shit.
Yeah. So I would love to put out an album on vinyl.
I'm gonna have to get him in here.
I wanted to get both Thought Instruments with SK and The Theorist with Sky Splitter that I made with them 2019, so a couple years ago.
Before all the shit happened in the world.
Yeah, and but that I really, those are two albums that I really wish at that point in time of just the musical progression. Like, I really, just as albums, I would love to have those to listen to, and have it for people to listen to. Just the experience of listening to them.
See, for me, you had asked who I was into.
Yeah. Well, the first one you said was Snoop, though, so it's always interesting to hear the first one.
The first two albums that I ever, or first three albums, because I was 3 albums.
I remember my first three, so you
were Nirvana and Utero.
Okay.
And those were the first 3 albums that I got from Columbia House.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But Nirvana and Utero, The Chronic.
Yeah.
And Doggy Style.
Nice.
So when you have 3 choices and you got to choose 3 albums, that's it.
That's a great first 3 albums.
Yeah,
man.
well, it was just the access, because I could get down to Burlington to go to the music store, but it was honestly easier to just order it.
What age was this? So this was not when those albums were coming out.
They're dropping.
So you're 12. It was 93, something like that. Yeah. So it's not like you're driving. So even to get to Burlington, you got to get a ride in from your parents or your friend's parents,
Good
right?
luck with that.
It's right?
Good luck with that.
So your options are limited.
You were on the bus.
Growing up in DC.
Oh, yeah.
So because the roots of my love for hip-hop were grown back then, right? I was able to walk. I lived in a city. I could walk to the record shop.
So by the time you got to Vermont, you probably already had.
I was fully into Public Enemy, EPMD, LL.
See, I was probably behind the curve.
De La, Poor Righteous Teachers. I loved hip hop.
But it also tells me where you come from and what your sound is now. I feel like there's a lot of sound comes from those roots.
So there's an album that's coming out that I'm working on now.
How long have you been working on it?
And I'm going to shout it out because you know what? It's with E-Train. It's we've been working on it for the past year, and
see, people think that this shit can be easy.
I take time with my records, and
there's some that I could just put out.
But there's a song. There's a song I wrote. There's a song I wrote for this that I talk about what I learned from all these different MCs. So there's 3 verses, 3 16-bar verses. So I think the only artist that has 2 lines devoted to them is Biggie. And actually, we were born on the same day, and he passed on my brother's birthday. So there's this weird numerological connection for some reason.
Yeah.
And also, just I love Biggie's flow and the timing. But anyway,
all right, no, that's a good.
The only artist that had 2 lines in the song devoted to him was Biggie. Everyone else had 1 line in this song of mine. So there's 47 different MCs I pay homage to and say
in a song.
Every line is I learned this from this person. Every different aspects of rhyming.
See,
I wanted to break it down.
Well, see, I have a lot of songs that I've written that are paying homage to that era,
mm-hmm.
but never that detailed. you just take the bar and
I
you
gotta
fucking
say,
move it up here.
that's honestly from my time in a group with Pro, like where we
Conceptualize.
there's songs where okay, this beat, we just wanna rhyme, you know what I mean? Like just rhyme about whatever. But then there were those we really got.
I noticed that
we wanted to like write about things. Okay,
Yeah.
this song is this, or it's being thematic.
Right.
With material.
I find a lot of my songs, like my better songs that I have, are just drop a beat and let me go.
I mean, honestly, there was something freeing.
But I don't get to that level.
There was something freeing about the album I put out with SK, which he basically said, I want this to be like your first solo album produced by me. You know? And I was like, that's amazing. So like that's what it ended up kind of feeling like, of like, where like, oh man, like I just this beat on I just let it flow. It was stream of consciousness, and some songs deal with, but there was not a single song was about any particular, like there were like thematic tones, but it wasn't like this is the theme of this song. There was no structure really, and it was very freeing, man. I really enjoyed it.
I'll have to.
But then the track,
listen to more.
The Theorist album, Zach and I came up with a whole story. Based on, it was like my love for film noir and detective stories, and we created this 7-song, 7-chapter story.
And that's what the video's from.
Theorist, yes. So we were making these
video.
We were making these videos. And
this is like a short film.
We're gonna have to see about we definitely COVID. COVID threw a wrench into plans, and it kind of upended things a little bit and. But I would love to get back to making these if it were possible.
I feel like COVID gave us a chance, though. Mm-hmm. As much as I hate to talk about it, gave us a chance to see where everything lies in the field. Because
I think some people needed to.
Did you work on music? If you're rhyming or if you're a musician and you did not work on music during COVID, do you love it, or that was the break you needed?
Right.
Because you've been doing it. Going hard for so long that COVID was actually a step away.
I had such a balanced kind of array of activities because basically I worked all through the pandemic. So the restaurant I work at closed, just like all the restaurants. I'm a server at a restaurant, steakhouse server, and I had an issue collecting unemployment because I had a New York license and like. I got my claim was basically delayed, and I didn't know what I was going to do. So luckily, a coworker reached out about this one company that was going to be hiring, and I got a job as like a screener, just asking COVID-related questions to employees as they enter the plant. This was up in Georgia.
No shit.
And I'm asking these questions, but the rest of my time was mine to use as long as you're professional about it, right? I could read, I could watch movies, I could write. So maybe 10 minutes of my time was spent asking questions because they were short questions. The rest of my time, I felt like I was going to my office, man.
Nice.
So I would go there, I'd read.
I feel like that when I go in my bathroom.
You know.
Well, because I got 4 kids, so like for me to I'll go in the bathroom and sit down and not even in there to use the bathroom, just to be able to get away because they come in our room all the time and I'm like, all right, I go to the bathroom and I'll just sit in there and I'll just play an instrumental or I'll just go without one and I'll just start typing up. But yeah.
Well, what was nice is I knew that I could be very organized about my use of time. So I'm like, all right, today I'm gonna, because I was working on multiple projects. There's 3 albums that I'm working on right now, but then there's also features that I did for various artists where they're like, I need a verse for this song.
Right.
So those were sort of almost like, freelance type stuff where it's like, okay, I got to get this done. And luckily I've been able to record with Jer, a good friend of mine, and have access to his studio, for a good amount of time and was able to write and record material and get a decent amount of music done during this time.
Nice.
So it felt good, man.
Yeah, I used more of my time I mean, I worked on a lot of music. I work on music constantly, but a lot more of this type of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, see, when I'm working on music, it's about me, and it's so like arrogant, ego-driven that I just got sick of it after a while. Like the hog squabble in the scene, like who's better, who's best, and it irritates me to see people fighting so much. I loved when people were coming together to do shows. So my investment, I decided the best use of my time rather than writing any more music. I got lyrics for days. Other than it needs to be up to date when you use it or whatever. I got so much stuff nobody's ever heard. People will just be like, you waste your time doing this. So maybe I should stop and start focusing on helping other people get to where they need to go. Like, for years I've been offering free studio time, free recording, free everything. Just beat making the whole nine, just so people have access to the things I didn't. Because, as I told you, when I started, we had to go to Record Town and get like a bass instrumental for like a car show, like the car bass dub, and can't rhyme over that stuff. You could sample it if you had the access to the tools, which I never did. So, music generator. As sad as that sounds, but when you put it through a system and you turn that fucker up and turn the TV off so nobody can see it because you have the audio video hooked up, nobody knows where it's coming from. It sounds legit. But no, I want to help other people. And just, when I said to you, hip-hop historian, and I put it in quotes, like, I wasn't saying that. I was like, he probably thinks I'm saying that, slandering those others who, no, that's who I am. Like, that's who I think I want to be, is I want to, like, bring all this shit to light. Because it's like, how different is the path that either you or I have walked, and yet it's in that same circle as I mentioned before. So I would rather have a place where you or I could have gone online, which we didn't really have. Shout out to MySpace though, because MySpace did a lot for fucking me. But I want to create an opportunity for people to be able to go and look at the artists from Vermont and see who they are and see some of their work and look at how this person was at the beginning of their career with this song that you put on, as opposed to what they're doing as of the time that they come on the podcast. And like, look, you might not think you got anything yet, but this is time. And like it's the 10,000 hours.
My mom used to be real honest with me about like my music. And she's like, I remember when I was like 15, 16, she's like, you're not there with the timing yet. You're not like you're not on the beat that you think you're on. And I think there was something to that. And I think that the more I hadn't found my flow yet.
See that,
because you're influenced by different artists, right?
That's what I wanted to get back to too, because you had asked me like what was my first, and that's when I heard Murder Was the Case, something like that. It's not timeless. Sorry, Snoop, but it's not. In fact, I put it on after I got off the phone with you the other day, and I was listening to the instrumental, and I was listening to the song, and it just hammered. And I have a good system, so if something's timeless, like Juicy, you put that on that system out there, and the fucking neighbor lady who doesn't like rap,
I have
she's
a
still shaking
Spotify
it.
playlist called Timeless Tracks, and there's 4 volumes of them, 100 songs per playlist.
You're giving out a lot of credit. Is it where credit's due? I'd like to see these songs. 400 songs.
So I'm halfway through the 4th one.
But that's still
it's 350. These
props.
are songs that I think you could play anytime, and it's not going to get old.
No shit. Well, with that,
and they're not all golden era hip hop, man. They're trap. I have an appreciation for good trap. Okay, they're like I've listened to thousands of albums in the last 2 years of modern hip hop, and I've really been differentiating between, just good trap and bad trap. It's going to be the same as boom bap. There's bad boom bap. See, everyone acts like that. There's only, you know what I mean? There's plenty. There are groups that do boom bap that aren't necessarily good.
Oh no, well see,
right.
That's
so it's the same with trap. I think people that don't understand, like people who try to downplay trap, like it's not relevant, and are still like just so
It's
attached
hip-hop.
to the golden era that they can't change the way they listen. I listen to trap like the way I listen to any music.
Yeah, but this
form.
is the evolutions of hip hop. Just
Right.
like Chicago drill rap.
Absolutely,
Chicago drill
man.
rap had
Absolutely.
a time
and a
like
lot of
this
it has
big
to
on
do,
the
a lot of it
timeline.
has to do with the production too. Because I'll be honest, as a music fan, unless your production comes correct, I don't really want to listen to the Emcee if I
Right.
can't vibe with the beat. To be honest, and that means drums are sounding good. Everything is.
But what are you listening to it on though?
My car.
So
Or my headphones.
It's on your phone through your car.
Yeah.
See, I feel like once it hits that phone, there's a difference. Like I could play you some
maybe.
stuff on my house system. You'd love the sound
I'm
system.
sure.
And
I mean, obviously, vinyl would be the way to go. That's the closest to the master audio that you're going to get.
Right.
Right? But you can, I mean, listen, it's like, the point I'm trying to make is, there is a lot of...
You're a hip-hop enthusiast.
There's a dude named...
Or a connoisseur.
Zaytoven
Yeah.
that makes ridiculous beats, man.
Quick.
And he's put out like 50 albums.
Have you ever gone on
Static Selected
on
too,
YouTube and just watched like a Zaytoven make beat?
No.
He'll go on there and he'll just be like, "All right, guys, this is how it's done," and the video is only 3 minutes long.
Well, what's cool is I've been listening to.
But you got to have that equipment and the access to that equipment. We used to use a DR5 guitar synthesizer because it had drum sounds on it. Now, was the production tip top magoo, as they say?
Right.
No, but it still sounds good.
What's cool is I
feel like what you're saying is that you're like a connoisseur.
Well, I've been listening to these artists. No, for some reason during the pandemic, it was like I decided I was gonna do this research project of like I'm gonna take the first hip hop album that came out in 2020, and I'm gonna take that artist and I'm gonna listen to their entire discography. Okay, every album. And then I'm going to go to 1990, and I'm going to take the first album released in 1990 and listen to that artist's entire discography. Whether I'd heard albums or not. So I went through all of Tribe's albums again. I went through all of Ice Cube's solo albums.
What kind of albums did you hit, though?
So I did this, and I literally went back and forth between 2020, 90, 2020, 90. And sometimes they intersected. So, like, I'd listen. So there's an album that Big Jazz... Or Jazz.
So is this all hip-hop?
Big Jazz dropped.
This is all only
in
hip-hop
2020.
albums.
Yes, in 2020. But then Big Jazz also was Jazzo and dropped albums in the 90s. So they basically one would start here and go here, where one would start here and go here. Someone that put out an album in 90, they'd have an album in 2020.
Oh shit!
So I've experienced.
That's an interesting come about.
I'm really. It's caused me to really like experience so much that I wouldn't have, and I'm talking like the biggest hip hop artist or the most obscure artist.
Right.
So like I'm really like, and to me, I forget who. I feel like Duke Ellington has been credited with the quote, but I don't know if it's one of those quotes that they just say someone said is there's two genres of music, good and bad.
Absolutely.
That's what I ascribe to. I want to hear music. Like, there's Japanese noise music that my friend Daniel would play for me. That was like beeps and like scrapes and
they're just making noise.
Where it's noise music. And there was something to it, man. I saw the inherent jazz element of the unexpected and negative space, like using silence as
See, a lot of people don't understand when I say jazz, like people are like, you listen to jazz. I'm a fan of hip hop. If you take jazz and you take blues and you mix them together,
well, you have to truly listen to
you get hip hop and you get rock.
You have to truly listen to jazz. You have to put it on and just let it happen. You can't be like wanting to. Okay, let me put it on. It's like no. Some of these tracks are like 11 minutes long, 20 minutes long.
You can never just put it on like Much TV back in the day on the Jazz Channel and think you were gonna rap to that shit.
Oh right.
Because they're changing.
Well, and the thing is, if you're sampling jazz, there's the moment you might find you can't just like go to the beginning of a track and see if there's something in the beginning of a track the way you could with like a soul record. You have to like really but then again, sometimes the break is happening in the middle of the soul record. But there's certain tracks you can put on the beginning and know that it's dope.
Okay.
With jazz, sometimes that moment isn't until 7 minutes in.
Right.
So you've got to listen. You can't just.
And it might not be when they play Tuesday night at the same bar they play Thursday night. They might play it that way Thursday.
You know, that was
they
great.
didn't play it on Tuesday.
What was great about living in New York City in my 20s was being able to go to hear jazz. And actually, so Smalls, I forget when Smalls closed down in the West Village, but Legends used to come and play there. And I remember going there when I was there to do a show with a group that I was in called Elementrix, a live hip-hop group. And we were just in the city, and we heard that there was going to be this old school drummer playing there. And so like we went and saw the set, and it was like, man, it's such like just a real jazz club, man. Like it felt, felt like the feel of like, man, this is like a cool experience.
Like a different era.
You're just in the presence.
You're in
of
jazz.
Yeah, there's just something very unique about it.
Right.
It's a unique experience. Being in a legit jazz club and hearing
I think
artists.
that ultimately, and I'm pretty sure that Nas agrees with me on this, but maybe I agree with him on it. But like I said, you take jazz and blues and you smash them together, you get two things. You get hip hop and you get rock. It depends on which way you go. It's like
it's true.
It's like Black Sabbath formed, and they were like, right. They were like, there's rock, like they do it, but then there's there's the new way that we're gonna do it.
Led Zeppelin is a blues-based rock. The Beatles are a blues-based rock. But then you've got Steely Dan, that's jazz-based rock. Right.
Oh, it all comes like
Grateful Dead is jazz-based rock.
Like I think American music spawns from those musics the music that came with immigrants. Spawns this music, which it all at its core is jazz or blues. Whether they're singing something a cappella or there's a guitar playing, but I think it comes jazz or blues. Now you have Irish immigrants that come over, they're still singing blues style songs. Like the way that they're singing, the emotion. It's a lot of the songs that were sang when people were working.
And folk is thrown in the mix.
And of course, like even now you put on the radio when you're working, but people used to have to sing this stuff because there was no radio. But it's like that stuff, and then you're working in like around these people, and then you are influenced by it. So like when you make music, you're influenced by what you're hearing. But let's go back to that.
Sure.
That whole thing, because you'd asked what I was influenced by. But I feel like you are influenced a lot by boom bap.
There's three MCs that I really credit to being my fundamental kind of like structure of my
which are nowhere near the three that I did. Only one of them is near.
So Tretch was the first one that I was like, I learned a lot from.
I don't think I learned anything from Tretch like you
Tretch
did,
is a very
like the way you explained it on the phone.
Dexterous, like the way he raps. It's like he can go fast. He can.
I feel like I missed the boat.
And he's always landing on the right. See, so like that's the thing is like to be able to pull off that style, you've got to be able to rap like Rakim in that regimented like, So Rakim, LL, and Tretch.
Those are your dudes.
Those are like LL, man. The hunger in LL's voice when he's rapping, like there's nothing like it, man. That dude's energy is a force.
All right, and your beat style though.
I grew up on that like '90s, yeah, man. Like,
But you're not opposed to doing a Zaytoven style track.
No, because actually, I've tried to just expand my horizons and listen to music.
See, my whole thing, like coming up, was like, let's form the Vermont sound. Like that was always my mission. Like, let's not sound like this or this. Let's not take these New York and Atlanta rap and try to put them together and make a sound.
Well, I feel like you should strive to do something.
I always wanted to create
meaningful to you.
Instrumentals that like came from here, and I'd always hoped that artists would just be like, all right, let's get together and make beats that are that are from here and create our
But then
own
they're
sound
also
design.
going to be influenced by
Right, but when
other
you're making those
places.
beats, when you're making the beats, that's when those influences get to kick in.
Right.
Because when I'm making an instrumental for somebody, I'm like, all right, where do you want to start, buddy? Where do you want to start?
Right.
All right, what's your time? I love 87 and 98. I love 87 and 98.
I can go either way, man.
But like a boom bap at 87 or 98,
Right, but I also
it's still gonna hit.
I still love the Don't Sweat the Technique, that or Big Daddy Kane.
See, I've never
Wrath
see
of
this
Kane.
Big Daddy Kane is someone who I've been compared to in my style. I always thought, like I've told you, like it's the flow, but you got to be able to ride the beat.
Yes.
Like for me, so like the people that I would say, like Big Daddy Kane. You're not gonna like this, but he might. But Cannabis.
Dude, I'm a huge Cannabis fan.
And Cuban Links, though.
No,
it's because they were so new.
Listen,
like they're so like late '90s, and it's like.
At one point in time,
how do they influence you?
Check it out. At one point in time,
I mean, this is amazing.
Just check it out. One point in time, Cannabis was the greatest lyricist on earth. For a point in time. Dude, everything he dropped had the world being like it was the end of every Lost episode. People being like, yo, what's going to happen in the next episode? Every rhyme he dropped in those late 90s, people were hanging on every verse.
Yeah, but it was real hip-hop fans.
I know, I'm not saying no, but that wasn't, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about raw lyricism.
Right.
He was respected by his peers, and he was respected by diehard hip-hop heads. And he has lived with that just like, it's almost like this mythological, like it's not a myth, it's real. But it's like because of his story and because of what happened to him, it, whether self-inflicted or not, it just has this sort of like
I feel like
epic like kind of nature to it, man.
All the best battle art, which is more so what I am, like that's where I come from, is just the art of the battle.
That's a big aspect. I mean, I was a battler too.
But I feel like all of them, like Papoose and
Cassidy.
That's what I was gonna say. Like those three are they're in a fucking world. They're not in a class of their own, in a world of their own. Like if those three put together a group and just came out with just one album, like Slaughterhouse or like that style, like I think it could be something that hip hop intellectuals could really fucking sit down and enjoy, because it's not gonna be about the beats. It's gonna be about the content and just the lyricism. But I don't even know if they all get along. I'm pretty sure Cassidy and Papoose do, but who even knows where Cannabis is these days?
He's actually, dude, I've heard multiple verses that he's dropped. He worked with an MC I know named Ape the Grim, and then he's on a track with Mikey D, and a producer that I've worked with, Doom DeWiz, made the beat, and Cannabis goes off, man.
No, I bet.
Like, dude, his lyrics...
Especially if he had all this time.
He's still got it.
But no, the reason I said that you wouldn't like it was because they were so, like, newer. I guess not newer now, but, like, within the last 25 years.
I mean, he's still the same.
Because there's hip-hop 25...
same.
For the last 25 years, 95 to now.
Right.
And then there's hip-hop for the 25 years before that. Well, 20 years.
Right.
You know, 70, Cedar Sedgwick, 76, 74, 72, depends on who you talk to.
Exactly, right. What was the
officially
the first hip-hop?
It didn't matter till Apache came out.
Right. Well, then you have, like, Fatback Band, Kington the Third.
You ever done a beat with an Apache sample?
I don't think so. I was making beats for a while.
I'd like to work that out with you.
Yeah.
I've kind of come to this whole thing, like, I'd like to take Apache, because every artist... You know, like Jay-Z and Nas and fucking everybody, Kanye, T.I., everybody's used a piece of Apache or had songs over an instrumental that was made with a piece of Apache. So I thought about making an album and trying to get, you know, fellow artists such as yourself and other people to, like, come and pick the beat that they liked out of all the ones that I made, or I can make something original with them, because they're all going to be original, but, like, custom right there, and then see... how, like, because they're going to be made off the same song, but they're going to be different speeds, different. So I've always thought, like you studied the 2020 to the 1990 artists. Mm-hmm. Apache's always been like a pet project for me. Like, I'm gonna make the beat.
Right.
I gotta make the beat.
That sounds like a cool.
But to get everybody that likes those old, like the boom bap style, which
what I like is when artists can have like one foot in each circle. Like for instance, Currency can is rapping over trap beats, but then he'll have albums where he raps over like Static Selecta, like smooth jazzy beats.
Right.
And he can do both.
I've
and there's
always
there's a lot of artists like that like can, if you're an MC, then you should be able to interpret different arrangements and rhythms and sounds and be able to like accompany.
You have to adjust your flow for what you need to do.
Look at Outkast. How did Outkast's sound like just literally like mutated and became like whatever it wanted to be, man. Right. And I'm still such a fan of ATLiens because of organized noise and the sounds that they crafted and just the sound of that record is truly special. Talk about an album that you want to own on vinyl. Pretty much every Outkast record.
Right.
Because they're
I feel like they make it for that. Like, you have some people that make their albums to be bumped in a club. You have people that make their albums to be bumped in a car. You have people like the house system or the headphones. A lot of people are functioning.
There are artists that make songs that are going to be bumped in the club that are on albums that are still like Biggie. Right? Biggie has songs that are going to be played in the club, but you can still put Ready to Die on the record player and listen all of side A and all of side B, and that's an album experience. Right? So it's like, I don't feel like it's one or the other. I feel like it's binary. I feel like it's like you just have artists that want to do those things, and some artists truly don't care about having a single.
I feel like, wow, it's a whole different game now as far as that goes, but I always felt like you have to evolve on every song.
Or you're going to stay.
On every song. Because there's something you're going to listen to this song here, and you're going to go, I could have done that better, but it's too fucking got it. And then the next song that you do, you learn from that.
Well,
you are evolving. So maybe you're automatically evolving anyway.
That should be happening, yes.
But I feel like you should...
That's like a life thing, too, though. You should be evolving as a human.
What's your job when you collaborate with someone? Two artists. You and another MC.
What's my job? I mean, I think...
What's your job as an artist on that track?
To be the best representation of yourself, but also to make space for both artists. Sometimes compromise.
I think that's a good question.
Compromise is needed, man. You've got to be able... Dude, with the Aztecs, like, we had to compromise, and sometimes it was like it meant that, this is going to be a little more... This is either Pro's idea, or it's my idea, or it's a mix of ideas, but it's like you're working with that artist. It can never be about your thing. See, in a group.
It's about continuity.
You have to be willing to let go.
Got to be able to create the continuity between your verse and his or hers, and or whoever's, and make it so that when you come back in from the hook, you just set the table when they come back in from the hook, that whoever you're collaborating with can go and feel comfortable. But your job is to elevate the track as high as you can get it.
I like that. That
to me is, so you're working, and the better you work with the person, the higher you're going to elevate that anyway, but is to be the best representation of yourself and just elevate it, like bring it to the best place you can bring it. And that doesn't necessarily mean being you and it being all about you. And I think that's been key for me.
Well, like for instance, that song that Cannabis was on Common's album, One Day It'll All Make Sense. It's called Making a Name for Ourselves. And Cannabis drops 2 legendary verses on it.
I don't know if I've heard it.
He goes, when the signal is given, emcees get bitten with venom from a poisonous algorithm liable to kill them. Like, just the flows are
But he's telling you what is going on.
Right, but like, the reason that worked is Common... Like, Common has some great lines on it, like Malcolm Exorcism. He has, like, some, like some really cool verses. But he knew that Cannabis was going to bring his A game. And so, it's like, he's not worried about being shown up by Cannabis, because it's like, that's the whole idea, right? Cannabis is going to be on the track. He's going to murder that track. Right. Let it happen. And he did, man. And the result was history. It's an incredible track.
But then you also have Common, who's not he's not the type of artist that's gonna battle that situation either.
True.
That's a good point. He knew who he was when I feel like he knew who he was.
He evolved as a writer though. Like he used to be a lot about kind of individual bars and clever wordplay and then as he got older, I think, and like learned a little more about life and himself and his connection to the world and the universe, like he became just a different writer. Like he wanted different sounds, he wanted different beats, and it brought different things out of him. And if you look at the evolution of the albums, it's like he really started to like, I think it was the one before One Day It'll All Make Sense. Oh God. Resurrection.
There you go.
I Used to Love Her is one of the best thematic songs in hip hop history.
See, I've heard that. It's been a long time.
It's brilliant.
It's been a long time.
He
does have those skills. He does have those skills. And I feel like somebody like that is in a different league, which he is. Mm-hmm. Like I had a time when I was like super into like Talib and all that. And I'm
I mean, that Black Star album is
oh my God,
phenomenal. And Mos Def's album, Black on Both Sides, is just like, I don't think it's a perfect album.
They're conscious rappers, but
it's like
they're able to be conscious on a level that is relevant in anybody that cares about hip hop's mind. Whereas some of these conscious artists are
because it's not just about being conscious.
So conscious.
It's not. They're not conscious of being conscious. Like it makes sense. Like it's like
they're just doing their thing.
It's like they just. I think it limits it to call it. It limits the music to call it that because it's like they're just making a point with their words. They're using their words responsibly.
But then you have conscious rap that has the language. And I feel like that's easier to swallow, and they can still make their point.
Well, because they're trying to do both.
Like conscious and clean.
They're making a point, but also being clever at the same time. And, you know? And so... Right. That's the way I felt about Biggie. You know, people would try to lump Biggie into this commercial category. It's like, dude, Biggie is a lyricist first and foremost. That dude understands lyrics. He understood lyricism to a dynamic
But I feel like
extent.
He understood how the lyrics laid on the beat before he ever graced a mic. He knew how this needed to be done. And who knows, maybe they spent hours and hours trying to critique him.
His presence is undeniable. There's really nothing like it, to be honest. The way he sounds.
So if I at this point ask you, if I ask you,
who's the best MC of all time?
Biggie or Pac? I told you how I feel about it.
To choose between the two.
Let's start there.
I mean, it's such an unfair thing. I didn't grow up like a huge Pac fan just because I grew up listening to Biggie. I don't know. It just I appreciated Pac. I had the Machiavelli album. I listened to those songs.
Back to like,
he just didn't hit me. It didn't hit me the way other artists did. And like I have nothing but respect. And I actually want to do the deep dive and like listen to the whole discography.
Right.
But just honestly, it was I always had nothing but respect. And for his talent and his everything.
I feel the same way. I'm like love and respect for both of them, but I leave them out of my game. Like, granted, probably everything that I do today comes from what they did when they were around. Because again, there's hip hop before them and there's hip hop after them. Where would we be if they were still alive? That's the question we don't have time to answer today.
I have made a change to who I think the greatest MC of all time is.
Who's that?
So for years, it was always Rakim to me. Because no one had ever...
I always wondered why people thought that.
What? He literally created the modern flow.
Okay.
Like, before that, it just wasn't... Like, it was a little more, like... It wasn't as, like, defined. Okay? And, there's just a consciousness he had of word usage that influenced all these artists to come. And there's a presence about him that's just like, he was one of the first MCs to not have to like bring energy here, but to be just cool and calm and collected.
But he did it in such a way that
so
let
confident,
you know.
Yeah.
It let you know that it doesn't matter what he said. It's how he did it.
He's very conscious of what he's saying.
Right.
He uses his words in a very defined way. I have changed that. Sorry, Rakim. I still think you are just...
I'm interested to hear who you're going to say.
Black Thought.
Really?
There is not an MC alive, to me, that is as consistent as Black Thought. I have never heard a verse from Black Thought that I was not at least like, that's... like
maneuvers and evolves within himself.
Dude, it's just impeccable. Like you
look at all these,
look at all these, but you look at all these Roots albums. You look at every appearance he's ever had. He gets on a radio show. He does this. He's an appearance on a track. He bodies it. He is a consummate professional. He is just like so good at his craft. And to me, he's the most consistent.
I'm gonna have to jump. I might jump on your bandwagon there.
Of all time. It's something I realized. It was like a revelation. I just was like, wait a minute. Is there anyone that like has been this consistent? I don't think so. Someone had a falling off period at some point. Okay, everyone. And he's like the only one who didn't. There are so many points in an artist's history where it's like, what's happening here? With him, it was never like, what's he doing? It was like, wow, look at what he's doing.
Right.
Guy, to me, the guy's like, just like.
Yeah, you bring up an interesting point there. I might have to go back and do a little digging myself. Because you do bring an interesting point. And
it depends on what your way of looking at it is.
I love the Roots because they were facilitating the music by hand, on stage.
They were unique, man.
And then still having the opportunity for the instrumentalists in the group to step forward and grace the mic if they wanted and create an opportunity for more about Black Thought. Yeah, and like my number one question I would ask him is, do you know when the changes are coming? Are they playing open face jazz and you're rocking it? And then you're just cutting it like, a DJ would cut that shit.
I would think that they craft that shit.
For the most part. But
I think that
I'd like to see some sets. Like, if he has sets.
Well, because he is an incredible off-the-top freestyler. So do you remember Tony Touch would put out those mixtapes and Power Cypher 2?
Yeah.
So 50 MCs, and you know who's freestyling and you know who isn't. The two artists that I know were freestyling were Black Thought and Redman. And you can tell.
Fucking Redman.
You can just tell.
Him and himself is an odd thing, but...
Redman's one of the best MCs of all time. In fact, Redman is in my top 5.
Really?
And should be.
I hate to make a top 5.
In anyone's top. I mean, you're right. It is an arbitrary thing.
Somebody asked me.
But
asked me, though,
what it is?
are you going to have people do top 5s?
It's fun to do.
I don't like making lists.
It's ever-changing, too, man. It's like, it is what,
Cuban Link is one of my favorite rappers of all time. For me to put him in my top 5 would be for others to want to smack me in the back of my head.
But that's your choice, though.
But to me, I feel like Cuban was... I could probably be crucified for saying this, but I don't think Joe found Pun's rhyme book. I think fucking Cuban had it the whole time. Because I think Cuban was writing the shit for everybody. Just like I feel like Lloyd, I'll go to my grave thinking that Lloyd Banks made G-Unit what they were. Because Lloyd Banks is another one of my favorite.
Right. Dude, you know who's an incredible MC and is recognized as so, but doesn't necessarily get brought up in like top 10 conversations is Fabulous. Oh, yeah. Fabulous's rhyme schemes are insane. Like, you're like, how did you know that rhymed? Like, how did you find that rhyme scheme? Because, no, he's effortless at it.
These things, have you heard, well, I hate to bring up anything specific, but, like, one of my favorite Fab tracks is he on NBA or She Don't Put It Down? I think he might be on both of them. With Joe Buttons. Like, just the way they collaborate.
I don't even know his career like that. I've listened
either.
to enough of
it's
his
like
verses
Fab's been there
that
and
I'm
he's
just
been signed by
right.
Rockefeller,
right?
Was it Rockefeller, Def Jam, Aftermath? Then he's on Shady, or like whoever he is. But it doesn't matter because he's fucking timeless. And every time he pops back up, you're like, oh, he still spells his name wrong. You know.
Well,
he's a good artist.
He spells it the way he wanted to.
And he could go hard and like really bring some like hardcore heat, or he can like lay back.
Yeah, he's laid back
and bring them ladies songs.
I know, man.
But that's the way I always was. Like, and I've heard some of your music, and I see how like you can be right up on the camera when you're in your videos,
yeah,
and right on the mic, or you're just trying to explain something about half pan back,
yeah,
and then you could be in the distance, just chilling. And I
give credit to SK during our recording session. There was a track where I maybe was a little too amped up, and he was like, try bringing the energy down, and I did, and then it became more conversational. It became more about, and it fit the beat better.
Right.
I don't know if you heard about this, but like, there's a story about Busta when he was recording, getting ready to record Put Your Hands Where My Eyes Can See, and Q-Tip, and Busta was doing it like the old Busta style of like hype, and Q-Tip is like, hey man, try it like down like this, and then that created that new right, and it totally changed what Busta did, like, and it made him more dynamic, and he had different lanes. I meant to listen to it.
It's not Busta for like.
Dude,
I mean, you probably will because you seem like you're like a hip hop intellectual. Like I fancy myself to some extent.
Busta had some incredible.
But I listened to his. He's got like 25 tracks on this new album. He put out hard copies. I mean, it's online. You can get it. I hate to watch a song or video that isn't on their Vivo or isn't on their direct site. Mm-hmm. But so I found out like what his was, and I listened to it on there so he would get the streams, and it's different. He's got some. I think you might like it because of how innovative he is. Whereas I was waiting for signatures, and I didn't get them. Did not get them.
But sometimes you don't realize.
Oh no, it's been a long time since he put out an album.
Where an artist was headed until you get there, and then you hear it, and you're like, it's too. You haven't heard anything like it.
His name is Busta Rhymes.
Yeah. Well, he's
known for scat rapping.
Listen, it's the same thing as when Andre put out Love Below, and you were like,
"Where are the verses?" There's no Busta.
I'm used to.
There's no scat rap at all. Like
That's okay though.
He's not. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's allowed to do whatever.
I'm not.
It may not sit with you the way you want it to.
It definitely sat with me in a
And again, I haven't
way.
heard. I'm speaking abstractly. I haven't.
No.
Is it more straightforward?
This is good because now I want you to, and you probably go listen to it on the way home. Who knows? It's more like trying to lace a flow and.
Is it slow? He's slowing it down. It's like Twista. Listen, Twista has songs where he raps like normal speed. And he's not necessarily doing the Twista thing.
This is Busta. It's new and innovative ways for Busta to do Busta, but there's those old throwbacks, those signatures that you expect from him. I would need to be there. I don't expect him to be there because I guess I shouldn't now that I know. But don't expect him to be there.
Right. When
you listen to it. And then let me know. Let me know how that turns out for you for sure. There's so much more I want to talk to you about. So hopefully we can do this via Zoom.
Yeah.
At some point.
That was good though, man.
And do another one.
We covered a lot of
ground. A lot of ground that I hadn't mapped out, but as you can see, I ran out of my own time. Ran us out of my own time. Ran us out of your time. Yeah. I will put this together in a way that is conducive to everybody. And I'll ship it out to you and see what you think, and then we'll go from there.
Awesome, man.
But are you planning on coming back?
I mean, I'd like to visit. Yeah, definitely. So it's going to be a place I'll always.
So what if I was going to throw a New Year's Eve thing, and I wanted you to come headline it?
I mean, it depends on what job I get and whether they're able to give me that. Because I might be like
I'm thinking New Year's Eve.
I might be the new. You know what I mean? Low on the totem pole.
All right.
And it's harder I work in restaurants usually, so it's like a lot harder to get holidays like that off when you're like don't have the pull, But I'll definitely if I can, yeah, man. Okay. I'll keep it open as a possibility.
So then we'll just So you're moving down to Atlanta.
Yep.
Tell me about that. Tell me about what.
So I went to Atlanta in, I guess it was 2012 to audition for Freestyle Friday on BET, 106 in Park, and my friend Ken took a 12-minute freestyle video of mine and sent it to them, and I got emailed and I was invited to audition. And I went down there and I was there for a week almost, and it was an incredible experience, man. And met a lot of great MCs and like really just enjoyed my time in Atlanta. I really got like a good feel of the city.
What happened with the
Freestyle Friday? So I made it to the top 6 and performed at AC3 Festival. And Dougie Fresh was one of the judges, and or he might have been the host. But then Static Selecta, Terminology, Just Blaze were the judges, and I competed and. I was supposed to get on the show, and I was told by the creator of 106 in Park that I was going to be on the show in January, and then I got home and got a voicemail saying that, I was 31 at the time, basically that like, you're too old for the show, it's more for 15, 16-year-olds now. So it was like, it is what it is. But I learned a lot. I know that I was good enough, When I got that email, I was in my hotel room waiting to hear, and I got that email of 6 names, and mine was one of them.
Nice.
And dude, they had days of auditions. Okay, like, man.
If you had to put a number on
this was a national thing. People came from all over to get on this, man. And I went to the final 6. Dude.
So they do auditions for all this, and then they set up different people for different shows?
And so people that weren't in that top 6 got to be on the show. That I know I was better than in the auditions. That I made it past. Like I was picked out of, you know what I mean?
See, that type of shit.
It was a harsh lesson.
It brings me back to when we did that first showcase with the champ, and we had to split the first place money. It's like I just want to give him all the money at that point because I know I was better than him. We know we were better than the situation itself. So don't do that. Don't play that game with me.
It was a tough pill to swallow at the time. Okay, but what it showed me was that I was that good that I could compete with the prospects, the top freestyle prospects. It was a pretty awesome experience, man.
I always had this thought that it'd be so cool to be part of the XXL freshman class.
Oh yeah.
Except I was around that same time that I was thinking that was like 30-ish. I'm like, never thought like maybe they're gonna snub me because maybe I'd be snubbed because I'm too old. And then I get older and I start thinking I'm getting too old for this shit. And then somebody's like, "Shut up, dummy! Jay-Z's how old?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's right.
Well,
Jay-Z is allowing us.
For me,
he is lacing the road for us to continue in this age."
For me, it was the wrong avenue. Or like. I don't know.
You did it, and it was a fucking experience, man.
And who knows? Maybe they found out my age or something, or I don't know what it was, man. But
did you have a beard back then?
No. But it was still a great experience. Anyway, long story short, Atlanta. I thought about that. I was ready to move to a city. I'm from DC. I lived in New York City. Living in a city has always been like, I love just being in an environment where there's a lot going on and where there's a lot of opportunities.
You were saying that you have friends already down there in place.
Yep.
And hopefully that will be a good situation.
And I'm just ready to keep making music and do what I can to get involved in music in Atlanta and go to open mics and try go to clubs and pass my music out and you do and
today we're recording today. You're leaving a week from today.
Yeah.
And I know that it took a lot of planning for this, and then it turned out the way that it did. But I want to thank you for being here, man.
Of course, man.
I think that
Thank you for having me.
This episode will be the beginning of hopefully a very informational road for people. And we're gonna do this again. There will be another one. Maybe we'll have to plan that around a time. Maybe we do a live one. Who knows?
All right.
But yeah, man, thanks for being
Thanks
on.
for having me.